in seasons, there's challenges and there's victories. We're talking about challenges and we're talking about victories. And you know what? One thing you're going to see real quick, if you saw the last episode, we're changing some things.
Yeah.
We're changing some things. We're going to keep it to the 15 minutes short because we know you guys are busy in time, but we're going to just keep going. We're going to roll and we're going to cut these out into little segments and we're going to break them down. I think that's an awesome way to do this. But look, today we're going to talk about challenges and victories because I think that in seasons, like we're talking about in this whole arena, seasons, right?
Yeah.
There's challenges and there's victories.
Yeah. You know, like as I was touching on at the end of last episode, like this guilt momentum, that I think is the biggest thing, that the Lord can use anything for his good. And so he used my guilt momentum to minister and work and refine so that when we did come back and sit in these seats, it would be richer. But it doesn't mean that means I should always have guilt momentum, right? It's just he used it. And that was like just very comforting and gives me a lot of hope that even in our weak moments where we just can't pull ourselves up by our faith straps and do the thing, that he's still lovingly ministering. He's not like, well, you failed, bye, I'll tap somebody else. Like he's actually still there. And he was ministering to me to get here. But that momentum where it's like, okay, we missed a week. There, I guess inertia, I think is, you know, like there was that, like trying to move an unmoving object takes so much effort, right? But I started feeling guilty and a play of like unworthy to come back. And what's the point of coming back? All these questions, right? And some of it comes down to, you know, the outside world, maybe, and like how we were experiencing podcasting, you know, like, oh, you know, you're not growing super big or whatever, so what's the point? But that's more the devil more than anything. I think for me it was just like I was ashamed and embarrassed that I had dropped the ball. And so coming back, it's like, well, who the heck are you? And people being like, well, where the heck have you been? Or you're gonna come back, there's no one there to care, etc. You know, those thoughts. And it's funny because you hear the lies and you're like, those are lies. But you're cozy with one less thing on your plate. And so you're like, but that's a good enough reason, right? Like you don't really rebuke it and tell it to go. You kind of let it keep talking to you. Right. Because you're like, I don't want that one more thing on the plate.
Yeah, I definitely understand that. The second, third, fourth, fifth. No, people always say, you talk to yourself. I'm like, I talk like 12 others. But like, so I can count that voice out
the
to
round
like
table.
My first voice, second voice, third voice, up to 12. Yeah. Right? Of all these voices in my head that's talking to me and I'm talking to them. Yeah. And most of the time I've got one good voice and the rest are just a bunch of junk because I'm saying. So different struggles during those time periods. Yeah. But at the same time, being married, you're one. So you kind of come in on each other's struggle. Guilt on her side, podcasting, you know, homeschooling. I don't know anything else that was out there, but God was driving it and God was using it. And what's really beautiful to watch is the changes that you see, you know, in yourself and in your spouse, and really learning that, like, wow, in challenges and victories, or in failures even and victories, right? You start to see like two people really coming closer together, especially when the center point is Christ, right? Because we always turn back to Christ. We're in prayer for Christ. You know, my strength comes from the Lord. Philippians 4:13, right? I can do all things through Christ, right? It's amazing. But one of the ones that I know that I think we would both agree on is that we don't know how to shut up. And we don't know how to be quiet, right? And I like this verse because that's a challenge for me to be quiet. Like I'm learning though, and I would say in the last probably look, it's been a year, and I can only say that in the last like 3 months, this has started to like really grab a hold and really rein it in. And I'm not perfect in it, but I'm learning to be quiet. But I like this because in Exodus, right, 14, it says the Lord will fight for you. All you have to do is be silent. And like, I'm like, but I want to fix it. I want to take care of it. Right. I want to handle it. Like, hold on, there's a challenge coming. Money for Kenya, right? I'm like, I got it. I have to do this. I have to do this. I have to raise the money. I have to. And then all of a sudden Satan comes into play and it's like, oh, and then throws in a land deal that's like, we made some agreements with the landowner, and now all of a sudden the landowner is changing his story because there's some influence from another institution that Pastor Jackson was with, and they're like, we'll buy it. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh my gosh, we're pressed, we're behind the payments, and they're about to just take all of this. We've built a house, we've got cows starting to be on this property.
Sheep.
Like the sheep are up in the high country.
So
we're good. But the cows, we're starting to do all of these things. That's just my phone, guys. It's okay. Relax. We're doing this all different this year. There's gonna be bloopers and everything. No, just kidding. But when we're looking at this and we have all this property, and all of a sudden they're like, we're about to take this from you, right?
Yeah.
And then it's like, okay, who's left but God? And then God goes ding and gives you an idea. And then look, you raise the money. Yeah. The property is now secure, right? And you're like, that's one less voice. But it took me having to be quiet. Actually, it took me having to hit a bottom to where I'm like, help.
Right.
Right. And that ministry all starting off because my friend is like, hey, we should do a full color ministry in Kenya. Blessing on that side.
Yeah.
Man, one of the young ladies that was in the church, right? From kid all the way through college and all this stuff. Yo, she reaches out and we say this on a Friday. She reaches out on a Monday.
Right.
And she's like,
oh yeah, I can do that.
What y'all been up to? And we're like, well, this is what we're trying to do. And she goes, oh, I can help y'all with that. Y'all cut the cost into like barely anything.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you, sister. If you ever listen to this, we appreciate you. And so she's running the paperwork, and look, we should have that up and running here in the next month or two.
Yeah.
But being silent.
Yeah. I think that's so valuable. Like if you walk away with one thing from this episode, it's let the Lord fight your battles, because that is what I've learned over and over in this season. And that's something that we needed to apparently have before we started this again, which is a little scary because what battle he gonna have to fight now? But anyway,
add it up.
But at the same time, in the lives of people around us and in our own lives and our own struggles, that is what has been happening nonstop in 2024. And there's no reason for it to end in 2025 because a year is just a number. I think we should start the year in April with the seasons, but that's a whole other thing. But I think
there was never chapters in the Bible.
Right.
Why we live in Bible? No, just kidding.
But it's just so great to see over and over, because when he does something, it increases your faith. Like it reinforces and gives you the ability to do even crazier things next time. And bonus points when you do something crazy off the jump, and then that's where you get to start from. But we've seen amazing answered prayers when people just sat back.
Wow.
And it's not that they did nothing. It's what they did. They didn't run their mouth. They didn't freak out and tell 60 people. They didn't try to do crazy outlandish things to fix it. They just went to the Lord, and that's what they did. They ran to the Lord, and they let him fight the battle. And to see the amazing things, the testimonies, some I can't share, some we'll share inevitably, but just like the things that, how are we going to fix this? And then be like, no. And like we got into this habit, like, how are we going to fix it? No. God's going to do it. And how much time is saved when you just say God's going to do it, because then you ain't wasting time. You have so much more time to manage all the other spinning plates. When there's a problem, you're like, well, God's got this. The ones that you just can't figure out, and over, he's just been doing that. So that's such a huge, observation.
Well, in the book of Shay, it says that the assurance of my faith are all the things that I do and what I can accomplish on my own.
That's why no one buys the book of Shay.
That's why no one bought the book of Shay, but they did buy the book of Hebrews, right? Now, faith is assurance of things hoped for, the conviction of things not seen.
Yeah.
It doesn't add anything else into that. It just adds in this trust in God. Now, we've said this 100 times probably on our podcast that that's what we do. I know that, but it's kind of interesting, back to the seasons things, what you were willing to give in the challenges and the victories, right? Like where you were at versus where you're going. Like, oh, I'm good here and I suck over here. And it's like, oh, snap. it's everything. Like everything. Oh my God. Everything. But yeah, it's like crazy. And you don't think these things until you're in these things. Yeah. And then you're like, and I know some of those things like us, marriage. Okay, let's go to marriage for a second.
Yeah.
Shay, you're doing too much. And I'm like,
I feel fine.
I feel fine. like I'm literally like feeling fine. Like no pressure on that stuff whatsoever. Now, challenges in those things. And I think sometimes a wife will see their husband going through the challenges and things. And we share a lot.
Right.
So some multiplier. You want to talk about that? You want to talk about?
I feel like that's like a whole thing on itself.
All right, we'll hold off on the multiplier because men will multiply their wife, right?
No.
What is it?
The other one. That's why I was like, let's hold off.
All right, let's hold off. All right, but I'm saying all I know is if I am in this challenge, and I'm sharing everything, and I'm not saying hold back, but how you share. Right? And how you state it. So, as we're looking at challenges, I'm learning how to speak when I need to speak. So in other words, back to silence, right? Mm-hmm. Sometimes it's better just to zip it, even with your own wife, because man, they are awesome, by the way. I just want to say this. They wear these beautiful capes for their husbands. And it's like, I am your Supergirl. And when people come against you, I am coming after them. And so it's like...
That's a certain type of wife. But yeah, secretly I think most wives are like that. But there's
wife
a whole
has a cape.
meme.
I love it.
There's a whole meme where there's like this soft little, like this like real meek and mild kind of guy. And then like someone says something. It's like, talk to me. I'll talk back. And like the wife just jumps over his whole self, ready to fight for him. Right. And I love it. He has to hold back, and that's kind of me.
And I love it, and sometimes it's annoying. Just to be real.
No, absolutely. right. But you don't need a pit bull jumping off the cuff like every time.
I want the German Shepherd.
Yeah, that's the goal.
Well, don't give pit bulls a bad name.
They already have a bad name.
There are good pit bulls out there, though.
Right. Okay. I'm just saying they already have a bad name, so let me not reinforce. Right. We'll get more comments about that than anything else.
Well, we got to be careful because the area we live in. Oh, no, just kidding. So just kidding. But that's some cool things that we're learning as well.
Yeah.
And these challenges and these victories is to walk them out, both of us trusting in the same person, and that's Christ.
Yeah.
I mean, we've got to stay centered in that. And you'll probably hear me say this 1,000 times because it really started with protection of my family for me. And then now it's just growing, like everything, releasing it over, being quiet, right? Letting God work. There's some recent stuff that happened and I was like, and then like, it's like a week later, it's all good. It's like
less than
stupid,
literally like, less than a week later when you just like hush. Even if you're like loud, but doing nothing, but you're being loud, he'll still fix it and then make you look just dumb that you were just so like you were the chicken running around with a head cut off. And he's like, why were you what is wrong with you? So I think that, as far as all of this, the takeaway is really just like be still and let him handle it. Oh, man. And you'll have work to do during that portion, but it'll surprise you how little work in that area there is to do. There's work to be done elsewhere, Amen. So,
be still and know that I am the Lord.
Exactly. Right. So like that's this, next week we're going to talk about like the
momentum and dust settling.
The dust settling. Yeah. How we started picking up momentum again, how we ended up back here, because there might be something that you're dealing with that you've dropped and you're like, I need to pick it up sooner or later, so that's next week.
Cool.
Thank you for listening to the Pantry Podcast this week. Remember to like, subscribe, share, comment, all the stuff that helps us get out to more people. We love to hear from you guys, and you can also check out thepantrypodcast.com to see any kind of extras we've managed to put together and get caught up on more episodes. So until next time.
Bye.
Bye.